Welcome. It is Friday. What is today? Friday, the 26th. And yes, I'm going to do the breakdown live. Going to try something just a little bit different, because innovation is always helpful. Either puts you on the right track or you go, I need to respawn and rethink stuff. So, boom. First off, small little segment from what happened here just moments ago is here. I got to share my screen with GasGas. We knew it was coming, but Motocross Action has said that GasGas is basically going bankrupt. They are going back to the whole KTM brand. I wonder if Husky is going to follow suit. This is a bummer. And yeah, I don't want to talk too much about inflation and whatnot, but it is hurting our sport. Just absolutely hurting our sport. It's expensive to go buy new motorcycles, and you can see the tightening of spending money when it comes to racing motorcycles. And Prado, we know he's coming over here to America this year for Cowie, or actually next year for Supercross. And maybe he saw something happening. Maybe his contract negotiations were like, hey, I'm getting less money. So, it's a bummer to see. I really like the factory edition GasGases. They look cool as hell, but that's sometimes what happens. Here, I'm going to talk about Washougal in the breakdown. This was probably the most spectacular thing I saw of the entire race, because we know that Sexton pretty much has this thing in the bag, especially with Hunter potentially having some sort of fatigue-related syndrome or injured with his back. It's a long season. These guys are at, 28 races for the year right now? And if you just think that in context of, 52 weeks a year, like, holy crap. But here, watch this and see if you can see what I see. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Oh, man, just the bike control. And he's just got that throttle turned. So this is what I see with this. This is right before the big huck jump for Washougal. Washougal is a very difficult track because of all the shadows and the terrain, because when it gets rutted and you're going off camber or whatnot, it's hard to keep your balance. But here, you've got Sexton landing hard, and look, instantly he's got, I got to zoom in just a little bit. Look at this front wheel. Look at this front wheel. It is like not touching the ground that entire corner. Boom. Then right before the jump, he's touching the ground. Just float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Be, as of right now, the fastest man in America at the moment who's healthy. Impressive. Just pay attention to him being on his toes, because he's pushing down. And that's one of the things that I believe more people need to know about is almost when you go to squat, you push your heels, you dig your heels down into it, because that's where all the power is coming from, is digging your heels down. And that's where these guys balance themselves and set themselves in like a rock solid state. Look at how loose his arms are, right? And he's squeezing hard with the knees. The knees are turned inwards, right? So he's squeezing the motorcycle almost like he's holding onto a basketball or something in a little bit of an air squat. So the technique, along with driving those heels down, this is what most people need to practice. But yeah, it's just going down a straightaway. But for me, it is spectacular. Just he's floating that front wheel. That suspension's barely moving because he's not hitting any of the bumps. So I got to zoom this back out. And here, I'll pay attention to some of the comments in just a bit, because I don't want to get too sidetracked about stuff. I want to give the good context here. And then you guys can grill me if you had any questions over what I went through or whatnot, how to help with your riding, etc. Right, so let's move this onwards here. I guess I'll show that in real time so that you guys can see after I explained it. Boom, boom, boom. And then he unloads. Now he's getting ready to soak this bike up over the next big tabletop. And here, what's the next segment? Ooh, yeah, this one's a good one. Okay, so watch this. Oh, off track, smooth, and grabbing that inside. This is literally right after that straightaway that we were talking about. But it's a blind spot. He's coming off a rut. He's picking a rut that's close to the inside. And in the air, He's whipping the bike after he soaks it up, basically landing off the track. The real landing is here, but he goes long and downsides where potentially some spectators could be. But he lands and he gets around all these big bumps, these big braking bumps, and he makes that inside. That was freaking cool. He was the only rider I saw do that at Washougal. If I'm moving on, oh, here's Deegan over the exact same jump. Here. Watch this. And then again, I will tell you what I see. Okay. And then you can see if you saw it too. Somewhat of the same deal. Yeah, he's pulling a tear off, but he's doing multiple things. So here, he jumps. Watch him as he grabs that tear off. Now look at the shift lever. Okay. Here, let me zoom this in. Look at the shift lever. 1, 2. Okay, let me zoom back. Maybe put that in a different light. Zoom out. Okay, 1, 2. He's shifting down twice. So he's landing with engine braking. And he's doing relatively the same line as Sexton. But why is he braking with the engine so much? So in my opinion, what I believe he is doing here is he's coming over after this right-hand corner, and he's probably in 4th gear. So he jumps over this, pulls the tear off, 3rd, 2nd, lands, isn't hard on the brakes. He's letting the motorcycle slow itself down, because when you slam on the brakes and you have big bumps, this is almost like going down the giant hill in Glen Helen. If you live there in California, try slamming on your brakes when you hit these gnarly braking bumps. The suspension is going to lock and it's going to kick you. But if you are relatively rolling and have just some roll speed, that suspension is going to flow underneath you and do what it's designed with its dampening. So what he's doing is he's shifting from 4th to 2nd, in my opinion, and just soaking over the bumps, lands into the rut that he needs to be, and then he is freaking out of there. Impressive. You want to watch the best riders in the world to learn and try to not intimidate, but imitate. That's the word. And here is Jason Anderson right after the gnarly Washougal whoops. Okay, and he was doing something that the majority of the riders were not doing. And what was that? Here, gotta change this a little bit here. So he comes after the finish line, and he's going to jump, downside the inside, roll, and then grab some throttle, double, and just make it smooth. These rough tracks, right? For somebody like myself, riding one of these rough tracks nowadays, you're going to hit every bump. You're going to feel every bump. You're not going to have any break. But the professionals, what they do is they try to glide over this stuff. They stay loose because they find smooth lines in a rough straightaway. Their vision on how they're just like, oh, I'm going to just turn this into a rhythm section, where really they're just acceleration and braking bumps and potholes. I don't know how they do it, but I can pick out how they do it, and we'll pick out that they're doing it, and also try to tell you why they're doing it. It's so that they can continue riding at a pristine pace for 35+2. Here, we'll watch that one more time. Jason Anderson had an outstanding ride here where he's finally coming together in moto. I personally think he's a better supercross rider because of his finesse than motocross. Motocross, you have to have some of that grit that Ricky Carmichael had, where you just need to be able to hit your head against the wall and just break through it eventually. And here, Hunter, focus on Hunter, where he's going through this same section. Ooh, that was sexy. That was sexy. So what is he doing? He's landing in a hole that is a choppy section that's braking bumps. And instead of just letting off the gas, he's accelerating and jumping over it. Where we saw Anderson here, he had a different rhythm. Hunter is landing here, jumping off this guy. And Anderson is now just rolling the landing of what Hunter did. I would like to use probably Lit Pro software to see which line was actually faster, because Hunter is setting himself up better for the next corner. And Sexton, he ended up taking somewhat of a similar line to what Anderson was running, because he's doubling and then he's having to really check up his speed right there and soak that up, where Hunter is doubling into it. Okay. And what do I have next for everybody? Ooh, yeah. These are cool. These are some of the sketchy lines that I saw. And this is interesting because this is in the real shadow part of the back section. Well, I would say like somewhat getting close to the front section by the finish line. And it's hard to see the ruts here. So it's really hard to go fast. That's why you see a lot of guys somewhat start slowing down, because I don't know, even this is supposed to be in 720p, but the definition is awful. And for the riders, I'm sure it looks like it's 480p when they're going through it, but I digress. You have Justin Cooper. They're getting ready for this checkup bump, which is a nice checkup bump because it slows all the riders down for the sketchiest part of the track, which is those shadows. I really commend the track workers and the layout for doing that, because it's important to keep the riders safe, and you got to slow them down where they can't see. Watch Sexton. He's going to prevent himself from hitting Cooper. Ooh, just beautiful body finesse. Here, I will zoom into it so we can see. Right? So he is picking a line here, and that back wheel, because of inertia is going to push him up against that rut, and that rut is supposed to hold him in. And he's soaking it up, but he's going to run into Cooper. And it looks to me as if that ass end ends up hitting the back end part of the rut, where the front wheel is looking for a place to grab. And I don't know if his front wheel went over this first one, but then the back wheel hits the second rut, or it's just simple that the front wheel is in between ruts, and because of inertia, it's pushing him and that 220-pound motorcycle to catch something. And because they're at a 45-degree angle and he's off, look at his ass. His ass is completely off. Where if we're watching Cooper finds a straight line and he's going straight. This is, again, why Sexton was so dominant there, is he was able to just push through these lines and just make stuff happen where other riders were having to be more cautious of solidifying the line that they were actually taking. That back wheel hits that rut, and he ends up moving his weight, which the weight of the motorcycle is going into Cooper, and he's able to counteract that and basically do a reverse whip, essentially, to keep from taking them both out. Just magnificent riding skills. It's something that I just wanted to show because it's just a perfect example of exceptional bike skills, just talent. Okay, so here, let's move on. Oh, we have to talk about this. I know Ricky Carmichael and honestly, I think it was actually Jason Thomas talked about it on the air with what Jason Anderson did. Again, he had an exceptional day. So here, if we're looking, try to get that line thing out of the way. Here, let's watch this in real time. And he only took this line this lap. The rest of the time, Anderson was going to the inside and starting from here. But lap one, just kamikazes it from the outside. So this is Anderson. Lands, pivots, splits the riders, cuts in front of Sexton. Wow. And just goes essentially from third place to first to get around. Actually, that's fourth place, getting around Sexton, getting around Cooper, getting around a Hunter in the next corner. Just the cojones and the ability to see the riders around you. This is one of the things where I feel, yes, guys, my e-bike stuff is getting old. I get it. Okay. But one of the times I just feel like e-bikes are not going to be as problematic as people think is these guys have a sense of just what is going around them. I mean, they're more than likely because of the adrenaline, I don't even know what the human eyeball feet per second is for taking up pictures. And that's what slow-mo cameras are, is they just take more pictures per second. But Anderson and all these riders are definitely taking more pictures per second. They're able to they're in the zone, that slow-mo feel. It's because your brain is literally forcing chemicals into your brain to where now you're taking more pictures per second. I think flies or something. This is nonsense information that you probably didn't need to know about, but they take something like 1,000 times more pictures per second than us. That's why you can never freaking smack a fly. He sees it coming because it's this, oh, and it gets out of the way. All right. Continuing on, lack of the joke. Cool line. Proud of Anderson for stepping it up this late in the series. Back to our homeboy, the Bulldog, Sexton. So this is after that big, what we saw Deegan and him soak up and land off the track at the bottom of the hill, doing the turn, and then are coming back up and the tabletop. Watch what he does. Where most riders are going to brake and slow down, he lands. He's just rolling off over the braking bumps, accelerates, jumps down the hill. We saw him also do this at Millville, which blew my mind, where normally you're going down a hill, then you're going to like, oh, these braking bumps, I'm going to jump off of them. Again, the best analogy is, we all know the famous Glen Helen, the track that everybody wants back, including myself. But as opposed to just trying to survive down those bumps, try to just launch down them. How scary it would be. Yes, this is maybe not the best example because Glen Helen is almost like at 90 degrees where this guy's at like 60 degrees, but still, you get the concept. Sometimes extremes end up painting a better picture than anything else. Beautifully done. And it's just one of those things that just adds up everywhere around the track. Millisecond here, millisecond there. At the end of it, boom, you're half a second to a second faster than anyone around the track. And here, that's honestly a small little breaking segment point too. Coach Rob, sponsoring the video. Appreciate you. He's got a podcast out here where he does 2 podcasts every single month. And one is about navigating amateur motocross. The other one is about racing at an older age, a vet rider, getting into it. How do you support a family and take time to train and still make it to the races, a work-life balance type of a thing. So this is an exceptional. He just dropped one here 4 hours ago. So make sure you search the Coach Rob podcast on YouTube or anything else. Great, great information. Back to some of these later lines and back to Jason Anderson. You gotta showcase this guy because he just had such a outstanding, marvelous race. Okay, this is on the front section of the track. He was the only rider I saw do this, just with his finesse style. Sexton is using the entire track to accelerate, where you have Jason Anderson going from inside to outside, and he's letting the motorcycle accelerate outward. So he's letting the motorcycle push to the outside, and he's not going to get hit by this wall, because if he gets hit by this wall, then the motorcycle is going to kick back on him. And what does he do? He basically seat bounce it, and I guarantee you he created this rut here over it, and he did it every single lap. This was his line, and so is the next one, but just little jump, take out some of the corner markers, typical Anderson style. Into this next corner, he had one line that got blown out. He was first going to the inside here and then taking this inside. Okay, so he was first coming here, going around here, but it completely got blown out. So there was nothing on the wall on the side of this checkup roller. And he was the first rider to create this rut here. And if we look at where Sexton is going, he's going to go to the deep end part here. And this was essentially just Jason Anderson picking his own technique, his own lines. And that's what's really cool is a lot of times you get stuck riding the same lines as everybody. And confidence is something where you're able to take different lines and you're afraid that it's not going to slow you down because you know you can still make up time. And he created that new line there by just going from outside in. There was nothing there, and it was smooth. It was abso-effing-lutely smooth. So that is the Washougal breakdown for 2024. And let me answer just the couple comments that we have here before you guys enjoy the weekend here. Dun, dun, dun. That was a good one. Hey, Brock, appreciate it, dude. So happy for Chase, but my eye is on the 27. Mookie is cooking for not riding outdoors for a decade. Kenny's back on the bike. I only bring him up because he's number 2 to 27. Dun, dun, dun. Tony B says Chase has been a blast to watch. Jett looks smooth and Chase looks fast. Going to be a treat to watch them battle. 1000% agree with you. 1000%. Jett is very smooth to watch. He doesn't look like he's really trying that hard. He's doing like 80%, where Chase looks as if he's riding almost over his head all the time. And when it works, it works. It's great. It's sort of the same style as, I would say, somebody like a Stewart versus a Carmichael. Carmichael looked like he was just going so fast, and Stewart just looked like it came so naturally. Oh, gotta love this one. Yeah, you the man, Hopper. No, I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Well, make sure you add that any more comments, and I will try to get to them once the video is off air. But enjoy your guys' weekend, guys. You two-wheel knuckleheads. Appreciate every single one of you. Drop a subscribe down at the bottom. I don't know if you can drop it, but click that subscribe button and share this video if I taught you anything. Till next time, keep it WFO.